Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So, I was asked to make this shark pencil case. So, that's what I did. It has pencil crayons, not crayons. It has pencil crayons, so it is long enough to hold pencil crayons inside of it. The picture I took, the picture shows these sticking out just for effect, right? But they do fit, so you're going to need to buy zippers, unless you're going to use a button or something. But these are brand new pencil crayons. They're not sharpened or shortened or anything. They're full size. So I used a pink one just to, because it's a shark and that's in between his mouth. And the pencil crayons actually go to there. That's how far down they go. So let's jump right into this guy. So I'm going to use a 4.5 millimeter for this project. But we are going to start with gray. You're going to do a slip knot. And you're going to chain 3. You're going to do 2 single crochets, which is the only 2 stitches you have because the third one is still on your hook. So you're going to do 2 single crochets. You're going to chain 1. It gives you a little triangle, and you're going to turn. You got 2 stitches. You're going to put 2 single crochets in each of those 2 stitches, bringing you up to 4 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. In this first stitch, you're going to put 2 single crochets. So we're just increasing. These next two are just going to be 1 single crochet each. So when on my pause screen you'll see it written as a bracket, and that just means the same space. And then you're going to do 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer. This next row, we're just going to do 6 single crochets. You should have 6 stitches. You're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of those. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to keep increasing, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, and then do 4 single crochets across. And then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. And now I just want you to do 8 single crochets, so you should have 8 stitches, so 1 in each. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to keep increasing, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 6 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. 10 single crochets. So we're going to make this a pattern. 1 single crochet in each of those 10 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. This will be an increase row, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 8 single crochets across, 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. And 1 single crochet in each stitch across for your next row. Chain 1, turn your work. Increase row, 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do, where am I? You're going to do 10 stitches across. And then 2 single crochets in this stitch. And then I just want you to do 14 single crochets across, 1 in each stitch. Make sure you're getting into that turning over stitch every single time. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to do another increase row, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do 12 single crochets across and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. And then I just want you to do 16 single crochets, 1 in each stitch all the way across. Chain 1, turn your work. Two single crochets in the first stitch, 14 single crochets across, and 2 in the last stitch. So that's about as wide as we're going. So for the next 14 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 18 stitches. So if you've got a row counter, that'd be a great thing to have. 14 rows. Well, read my pod screen. 14 rows, 18 stitches, and I will see you on the other side. So this is my 14 rows. That's what it should look like. So we're going to start decreasing now. So I want you to chain 1 and turn your work. So you're going to see this written as SC2 tog, which means single crochet 2 together, which is just a decrease. You go into the first stitch, pull up a loop. You go into the next stitch, pull up a loop. You yarn over and pull through all 3. And then you're going to do 14 single crochets across. It's my 14th stitch. You got 2 stitches left. You're going to decrease those 2. So SC2 tog, first 2 and the last 2 stitches. You're going to chain 1 and turn your work. So just like we did in between our increases, we just did a regular row. That's what we're going to do in between our decreases. We're just going to do a regular row. So I just want you to do 16 single crochets, 1 in each stitch. That's my 16th. Chain 1, turn your work. And now we're going to decrease this row. So it's going to be the same thing. Do a decrease. And then do 12 single crochets to the other side. This is my 12th one, and you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now I want you to do 14 single crochets across. Now we're going to SC2 tog, first 2. You're going to do 10 single crochets across. That's my 10th stitch, and then you're going to SC2 tog the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now you're going to do 12 single crochets across, 1 in each stitch. You're going to SC2 tog the first 2, and you're going to do 8 single crochets to the other side. And you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now you're going to do 10 single crochets across. Moving right along. So that's what it should look like so far. You're going to decrease the first 2. Oops. And you're going to do 6 single crochets. And you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now I just want you to do 8 single crochets across. Chain 1, turn your work. Easy peasy. decrease first 2, and now do 4 single crochets, and decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And now I just want you to do 6 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. We're getting really small now. We're doing the nose, in case you're wondering why we're getting so tiny. You're going to decrease first 2. You're going to do 2 single crochets, and then you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. So, you have 4 single crochets left at the top. And for the next 2 rows, I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 4 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. So that's going to be where we fold our nose down to make it. So now we have to start increasing, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in the first stitch. We're going to do 2 single crochets, and we're going to put 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You should have 6 stitches. I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to increase again. So 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 4 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in your last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You have 8 stitches. You're going to do 8 single crochets. Chain 1. So I don't know if you followed me for my slipper or not, but this is, I did the same thing with this one. Is I folded it over to make the nose. Oh, sorry, I folded it over to make the nose. So that's what we're building right now, in case you're wondering. So we're gonna increase, turn my work. We're gonna do another increase. So 2 single crochets in this stitch, 6 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in this last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You should have 10 stitches, and I just want you to put 1 single crochet in each of those 10 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. 1 more increase, 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 8 single crochets across. And 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You should have 12 stitches. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those 12 stitches. So, you should have what looks like a fish right now. It's always an easy way to do a shark, anything, slipper or anything. It looks like a fish. Now with the shark slipper, I added the white was crocheted into it. This one I decided to do it differently because I just needed to do it differently. So yeah, it should look like a fish right now. This is what you should have. You're going to fasten off, and you need to have a sewing tail because we're going to fold this over like that, and you're going to sew up this side, down this side. You're going to leave this open, but we're not going to do that right now. But have enough to do up both sides. We're just going to kind of shimmy across. That's how we're going to do it. So, not a whole lot of sewing tail, but you do need a sewing tail. We can do this right now. It doesn't really matter. Less things to do later, I suppose. I probably have way too much of a tail, which I always have too much of a tail. So I'm just going to do a regular whip stitch. I'm not being all fancy about this. It's just a shark nose. So keep it really close to the top. Like, don't go deep with your stitch. You don't need to. So once you're at the top, you're never going to see the underside of this. So you can just go through the top like that. No one's ever going to know. This is the nose, so like I said, we're not sewing across here. Leave that open. So we just need to make a knot so you can come up and go through your loop. Pull back and forth. That tightens that knot right down there. So don't judge my sewing. I did not fold that down properly, but hopefully your sewing's better. You can probably weave this in while we're here. I imagine it can be sewn in later. It's no big deal, but this will let you know too what the inside is for later when we go to sew it together, because this is going to be the inside. That's going to be the outside. So I would leave that actually hanging just so you know that that's the inside where the flappy part is. Let's sketch your white. Mine is not worse. Mine is 4 weight, but it's a lot thinner than my gray. A lot thinner. So I'm not happy about that, but I don't have any bigger white, any thicker white, so make a slip knot. And I didn't when I made this guy. I didn't have any worsted or anything, so it all worked out fine. You're going to chain 3 and you're going to do 2 single crochets. So almost kind of the same pattern as the one we just did, but not really. Chain 1, turn your work. So we're going to start increasing the same way. You're going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch. You only have 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. Let me see if I can come in a little closer. Move my stuff out of the way. So this round you're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do 2 single crochets across, and then 2 single crochets in this last turning over stitch. So make sure you're getting through both loops. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to do 6 single crochets. You should have 6 stitches, so you're going to do 1 in each stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do 4 single crochets across. And then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You have 8 single crochets. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those. Chain 1, turn your work. Sometimes that last turning over stitch can be a pain in the butt. You're going to do 2 single crochets in the first stitch. You're going to do 6 single crochets across. And you're going to do 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. You have 10 stitches. You're going to put 1 single crochet in each of those. I am doing a tight turning over stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. I tried to make that a little looser. 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 8 single crochets across. And 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. So your next round is going to be just 12 single crochets. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to keep increasing, so 2 single crochets in the first stitch, 10 single crochets across. And 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Chain 1, turn your work. So for the next 18 rows, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of these 14 stitches. And I will see you. Oh, and I want you to put markers on this row. So when you're done your 18th row, put a marker on each end of it. And I will see you on the other side. This is my 18 rows, so this is what you should have. I need you to mark this row. Doesn't really matter what color markers you use, just mark this row, because you're going to need it later for sewing this guy together. And from here, you can do 4 more rows of 14 single crochets. So my 4 rows is done. We're going to start decreasing now, so chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to decrease the first 2. You're You're going to do 10 single crochets and decrease the last 2. So we're not doing the same as we did with the other part of this. We're going to decrease, decrease, decrease. So we're going to decrease again. We're going to do 6 single crochets. Or 8 single crochets. 6. That would be the next row. 8 single crochets. Decrease, chain 1, turn your work. You're going to decrease the first 2. You're going to do 6 single crochets. And then you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. One more, well, not one more, but decrease first 2. You're going to do 4 single crochets. And you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. And this row you should have 6 stitches, so this row is just going to be 1 single crochet in each of those 6 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to decrease the first 2, SC2 tog. You're going to do 2 single crochets. And you're going to decrease the last 2. Chain 1, turn your work. You've got 4 stitches. You're just going to do 4 single crochets. And you're going to fasten off. So just fasten off normally and tuck this guy in. So again, decide which is the front, which is the back. And then you might want to consider leaving him out so you know what's the front and the back, even though we're going to get started right away. So I'm just going to leave a little piece kind of hanging out. So your markers are right up here. So with this down, you're going to put the 2 ends together. What you're going to do is you're going to sew, and yes, one is way smaller than the other. That's the way it's supposed to be, because we needed that space for the crayons, or the pencil crayons. You're going to sew up to the markers. So you're going to sew up here till you get, oh, I lost them. Oh, there it is. So you're going to sew all along up here till you get to a marker, and then you're going to sew all along up here till you get to the marker. Doesn't matter what color you use for your sewing. I'm just going to use gray. This is a way thicker yarn. I'm going to make a slip knot on one end, and the other end is going to get threaded. So I'm going to go in where my marker is, here. And I'm going to grab, let's make sure my tail's even before I grab any. So your tail needs to match up. So make sure that matches up. So that's where my marker was. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to grab some of this. And when I pull through, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go through my loop. And this will tighten up. I like to do an extra knot right here, just for safety purposes. That's all going to get tucked in and nobody's going to see it. So I want you to whip stitch all the way across till you get to the other marker. So I don't know if you guys know what mattress stitch is, but you can do the same thing with a mattress stitch. You can, as you can with the whip stitch, is you can choose to pull it tight after you've put so many stitches in. So if you got really long, I don't know if you can see that as far as I can zoom, but see how loose mine is? So I can do a few stitches like that. So just stay at the very tippy edge, the tippy edge. The reason the gray is bigger, oops, I pulled too tight. I'm just trying to show you something. The reason the gray is bigger than the white is so that you get that concave, so you've got all the space to just jam in. That shark I showed you is actually holding 2 packages from the dollar store, 2 packages of pencil crayons. So when you get a few stitches in, you can pull this like a mattress stitch and it'll close up so tight that you're not going to really notice the gray if you're using it. So that's what I do. I don't try to pull tight as I go. I just pull tight after I put a few stitches in. So just work away at sewing up your guy. So I'm just about to my other marker. So just make sure it is going to be even. We all know I can't sew very well. I think that's pretty close. So I'm gonna go through my loop to make a knot. So I'm just going to cut some of this off for weaving because I got still way too much. Those should just about meet. And they should be just about the same sides from here up. Just about. Not entirely, because this is the bottom jaw, so it's going to be a little bit different, but this gives you plenty of room in here. Like I said, mine holds like 2 packages from the dollar store of crayons. Actually, it was over 2 packages because what I have in here is 1 package of the thinner, just the one thin box, the long. And then the other package is 3/4 of a double pack. So it's actually more than 2 packs that fit in there. So it's pretty big area. So with gray, get your gray out. Again, we need to reconnect. And we're going to crochet around the jaw. You're going to make a slip knot. So we're gonna crochet around, up, and down. So attach right down here at the corner of the mouth, and just attach with a single crochet. We're just using single crochets, but I want you to put another single crochet into that same space. This is a raw edge. There's no stitches. So you're just going to have to get your hook in there. And I can't give you numbers because I don't know where you're sticking your hook. But just do one single crochet around wherever you can get your hook in. Up here you got stitches. So just follow along. You got 4, I think. Yeah, 4 up here. And then you're back to just creating them wherever you get your hook is stuck in. Try to at least mimic the other side that you just did. And don't get carried away. We're coming up to this nose and there's something different we have to do, so don't work ahead of me. So, pop over to the corner, through the corner. You're going to keep doing your raw edge single crochet. Make sure I'm on camera. So, when we get to the nose part, you're going to do, let me show you. It's hard to explain it. We're kind of upside down. So, when we do the teeth, so I crocheted into the back loops all along, which is technically the front loop. So if you were holding it the right way around, it would be the back loop. But for us, it's the front loop. So, holding it the way we have it, we're going to go into the front loops. Let me try to turn it so you can actually see the stitches. So these are our V's. Let me raise this up to get closer to you. So this is the way we're holding it. I want you to go into these loops. The ones right at the front, not the back ones. We're going to put teeth into those back ones, the white teeth. So you'll see it as front loop only. So once you're back around, I sewed mine crooked, so I've got a couple of stitches before I get to the corner. You can slip stitch to that first stitch that you did, and fasten off. So these two, where your start and your stop points, though that can get tied together just for added security. A super duper tight double knot, and then you can weave that in. You'll never see that little knot that you just did. So with our white, so we got to make some teeth now. So now we did front loops only. So if you roll it over, you're going to see your back loops, and that's what we're going to do teeth into, so that he has an upper lip. That's the method to my madness. So there's all the back loops. But we're going to start down here in the corner with our white. Okay, so we're going to do our teeth. So I want you to make a slip knot. And we're going to be putting these in the back loops only. And if you don't want to, if you want to use the whole stitch, knock your socks off. I'm putting mine in the back loops. But I'm going to first skip 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches. Go into the 5th stitch. So we don't want to start our mouth right away. And you can attach with a single crochet and put another single crochet. And you can also put a half double crochet, chain 2, and picot. So picot, from your chain 2, you're going to go into these 2 stitches. They're sideways stitches, but that's what a picot is. So it puts a point on something. So after your chain 2, just come down and find your 2 sideways bars, and you can slip stitch. That's a picot. So it puts a point on the end of something. And then in the same stitch you can do another half double crochet and a single. So that's one tooth. We're going to skip 2 spaces and do it again in this back loop. So you're going to do a single crochet, you're going to do a half double crochet. So this half double has 3 bars. 1, 2, and 3. That's what you just pulled through for a half double. When you do your chain 2, you're going to come down and go through those 2 bars from your half double. That's where you're going to go into. So chain 2 and then picot. So these are the 2 bars from your half double, and you're going to slip stitch. And then you're going to do a half double and a single. And that's going to be your repeat. Skip 2, single crochet, half double crochet, chain 2, find the 2 bars from your half double, slip stitch, half double, single crochet. So the picot can be quite difficult for people that aren't used to it. And I don't know if I've done it a whole lot on my channel, but that's the best way I can find to describe how to do it. So I'm going to put the repeat that you got to do up on my board, but stop at the nose. Don't work ahead of me, and I'm going to show you what we do up at the nose area. So my pause screen will go up, but we're going to come back. So we did front loops only. So when you roll this back, you're going to see the back loops right here from when you did the front loops. So you're going to have this much space because we worked in the front loops the last time. So these little back bars is what we need to go into. You could probably see it easier on yours. So I'm at a spot where I'm going to skip 2. So this is this space here, which there's a bar right there. It's just going to be a tight one. There's a bar right there. So I'm going to go into this second bar. Oh, sorry, I'm going to skip 2. So I'm going to go into the 3rd bar. And I'm going to do my regular chain 2 picot. So we're not changing what we're doing, we're just changing where we're doing it. So what you skip this corner, and that's 2, so your last one will be here. So it may seem a little squishy on this end, but once we sew on the zipper, you probably won't even notice it. So right here is where we attached. I just want you to go to the top of, so there's our where we attached, and then our 1 single crochet that we did. So I go into that 1 single crochet that we did and slip stitch and fasten off. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to squiggle my way down to that other one where we joined, and I'm going to do a double knot, a very tight double knot, and then I'm going to weave from there. We did a double knot, so you don't really need to go that far. So if you don't want this many teeth, you just need to skip more spaces. Not everybody likes all the ganglies. So your zipper gets sewn in all along under here. So under the teeth is where your zipper gets sewn in. So then your nose sticks up like that. It looks better once it's full. It looks funny now because it's got nothing in it, but so the eyes, I think I used 14. Let me get my eyes. I think I used 14-inch eyes for mine. They're really far apart. But technically 1, 2, 3, around between the 4th and 5th stitches on either side. You can tell by the nose. It's hard to show you in there. But I'm pretty sure my eyes are 14 inches. Oh, maybe not quite that big. These ones might be 12. I'm just going to do 14 for this guy. So his are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Between the 12th and the 13th row. Oh, sorry. Doing the 12th and the 13th row from here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And then, so 12 and 13. That's where I put those. 8, 10, 12. So in here. 4. One, 2, 3, 4. So these eyes are going to be really big on this shark, but that's okay. So let's get started making his fins next. So first we're going to make the side fins, the 2 side fins. So you're going to do a magic ring. The magic rings I do have an automatic chain 1, so you don't have to worry about it. You're going to put 6 single crochets inside this ring. That's my 6, so pull on your little thingamabobber. So, get closer. You're going to need a stitch marker. We're not slip stitching or chaining. It's going to be amigurumi. So, you're going to do 1 single crochet and an increase. So that's my 1 single crochet. Then your next stitch is going to get the increase. I'm just going to weave my tail in as I go. So the increase is 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. Boy, I got 2 left hands right now. I don't like sewing in my end, and I don't like it just hanging there, so I'm gonna just weave it in till I come back around. So your last stitch to have 2 single crochets in it. So pull on that, tighten my stuff. Your next round is going to be 2 different stitches. So you're going to do 5 single crochets, and then you're going to do 4 half doubles. So that's number 1. That's 5 single crochets, and now you're going to do 4 half doubles. I'm just going to flip that around. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So that's number 1. That's number 2. And then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. You should have 12 stitches, so your next round is going to be 6 single crochets and 6 half double crochets. And now you're going to do 6 half double crochets. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase. That's 4 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. The next 2 rounds should have 18 stitches. The next 2 rounds, you're going to do 9 single crochets and 9 half doubles. That's 9 single crochets and then 9 half doubles. You're going to do that for 2 rows. So your next 2 rounds are going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch, just a single, and then you can fasten off. We're all done. You'll have to make another one of these. I'll put my pattern on the screen, but let's finish this one together first. So I'm done my 2 rows. I'm going to fasten off with a sewing tail. So, do you see how it curves this way? That is what we needed. So, let's get this whip stitch shut. So, I need to have it folded like this, but obviously I can't whip stitch yet, so I just gotta backtrack a couple of stitches, a few stitches into this stitch. And then I can whip stitch. So, this has to be sewn on so that the curve curves away. Just trying to see where that maybe like a row away from the mouth, but it has to be sewn on so it curves away from the head, just like all the other ones. So go ahead. I'm gonna put my pattern up for this guy so you can make your second one, and then go ahead and get them sewn on however you want to sew them on. I don't give sewing lessons very well because I don't sew very well. And then when we come back, we'll do the dorsal fin. So I got both mine sewn on. I think they're pretty even, but it's tough to tell. Let's do this dorsal fin next. So we're gonna make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. You're going to do 1 single crochet in each of these 6 stitches. So this is another way to get a point on the end of something. I'm just going to flip this around just to make my life easier. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. That's my 1 single crochet, and then my next stitch gets the increase of 2 single crochets in the same space, and repeat. So the point of this puts a longer point on the top, if that makes sense to you. And now I just want you to do 1 single crochet in each of these 9 stitches. Still just weaving in my tail. It's easier to do it this way over the next couple of rows than it is to do the other way. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this is going to bring you up to 12 stitches. That's number 1. That's number 2. And then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. Your next round is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do an increase, plus we're going to do 2 different stitches. So get your stitch marker in there. That's stitch number 1. It's a single crochet. You're going to do 3 single crochets, so that's number 1. That's 3 single crochets, and then you're going to do your increase in single crochets, so 2 single crochets in this next stitch. Then you're going to do 2 single crochets, and then you're going to do a half double. Then in your next stitch you're going to do 2 half doubles in the same space. So you'll see it written with a bracket. That means the same space on my channel. Then you're going to do 3 half doubles, and then the last stitch gets 2 half doubles in the same space. You should have 15 stitches. Your next round you're going to do 4 singles. So that's number 1. This next stitch is going to get 2 singles in the same space. Then you're going to do 3 singles, 1 in each, and a half double in the next stitch. The next stitch is going to get 2 half doubles in the same space. Then you're going to do 4 half doubles, and your last stitch is going to get 2 half doubles in the same space. You should have 18 stitches. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. All singles. All single crochets. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. For the next 2 rows, you should have 21 stitches. The next 2 rows, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each of these 21 stitches. And I will see you on the other side. So I've come back around and just fastened off with a sewing tail. So I sewed mine open. I didn't whip stitch this. So I'm going to go in backwards into this next stitch and I'm going to pull this through. Because that's what I like to do when I sew mine on. So again, the curve has to go away from the head. And I did it about 3, 4 divots, counting the divot the eyes are in. 2, 4, 6 rows, and then you've got this other divot, so where the lines are, making sure it's in the middle. So I've got my everything done. We got to do the tail fin. So I did the tail fin a little bit differently than you'd think. Normally you would think this would be all one piece. Well, it's not. So the tail fin of a shark, the top part is bigger than the bottom part. I don't know if anyone's ever noticed that. It's not all sharks, it's only some sharks. This type of shark has a smaller lower half than it does an upper half. So I made them 2 completely separate pieces, 2 completely different sizes. The reason I did that is because when you make this all one piece and then you try to sew it to this, it's not very stable at all. And I just felt like it just moved around too much and it just was not a stable thing. So I took these, and then when I was whip stitching them together, I left a little gap and I literally put it on the tail and then I sewed through. So that's why the tail looks like this. But this tail's never coming off. And you can move it around and bang it around as much as you want. It's never coming off. The other one, I wasn't so sure about that. So the only thing wrong I did with the tail was both of these pieces. This dips in like that. It's supposed to go out. So I put this one on backwards when I sewed them together. I didn't sew them together, so both pieces were out like that. So that's why it looks funny. But we'll fix that for this shark. So we are making 2 pieces. They're going to be completely different sizes. So the first one's going to start with a magic ring and 6 single crochets. I'm going to zoom back in. So pull your ring shut, and I just want you for round number 2, if I can get my lead, you're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around for 6 stitches. So you can use your marker here if you want, but I'm just going to count to 6. And this is number 6. So I'm going to flip it around. Make sure my middle's pulled as tight as I can pull it because I'm going to be weaving it in this next round. I don't generally do that, but I don't really want this. I mean, kids are going to be bashing this poor pencil case around. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet and an increase. And if this seems familiar to you, it's because that's our last, kind of like we did our last fin. So I would use a stitch marker in this case. So that's 1 single crochet and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Again, this should be done 3 times. You should get around 3 times. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. I'm stuck. I said this was worsted, but at the beginning of the video, I'm pretty sure I corrected myself. It's not worsted, but it's very big. So I'm just going to snip my middle off here because I weaved it around once. I'm pretty sure I'm fine. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and then 4 single half doubles. So very close to being like the other one. Like this one is actually close. That's 5 single crochets and then 4 half doubles. Your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 12 stitches. That's number 1. That's number 2, and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So your next round is going to be 6 single crochets and 6 half doubles. So we have 12 stitches. That's my 6 single crochets, and now I'm going to do 6 half doubles. Your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. That's number 1. That's my 3 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. So I should have 15 stitches. Your next round is going to be 8 single crochets and 7 half doubles. Your next round is going to be 4 single crochets and an increase, and this will bring you up to 18 stitches. The reason I chose to do all my increases in single crochets and not both of them like the rows in between is because when you do a round of single crochets on top of a split round, it helps the curve. So that's why I did that. Your next round is going to be 9 single crochets and 9 half doubles since we have 18 stitches. Still increasing. Your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and an increase. So we're getting quite the slanty on this. That's number 1. That's 5 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. And repeat. Just about done. So it's hard to see the twist in it until we go to put the 2 pieces together. You should have 21 stitches, so our next round it's going to be 11 single crochets and 11 half doubles. Excuse me, I am tired. It is 11:18 at night. That's number 1. That's my 11 singles. I'm going to do 11 half doubles. No, I'm going to do 10 half doubles. All right. So, because this is really slanted, when you do your last round, it's just going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. We're not increasing, we're finishing it. So just 1 single crochet in each of the 21 stitches you have. But right here, to match the height of that, I want you to do extended stitches, just so when you sew the 2 ends together, it's not so slopey slanty. So what I mean by extended stitches is you're going to go into your stitch, you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to pull up so that it matches. Then you're going to yarn over and pull through. So you're doing extra long stitches. Pull up. So you'll see this sometimes written in magazines and stuff like that with special stitches as ESC. And that's all it stands for, is extended single crochet. You can do extended any stitch, half double, half triple. So you only need to do it for a little while. So when you put it together, you can see how just the 3 singles is now even to this back part where the half doubles is. So therefore, by the time you're done your row, so of course when you come around here, you don't need to do extended anymore. You can just do regular ones. So the extended stitches, really, I think I'm done. I did 3, and that's all pretty even now. So I'm gonna hold it properly. I mean, that's a little, I could probably do a little bit bigger ones, but I don't think I need to extend them that far. And that was just 3 stitches. So it's just a suggestion. I mean, you don't have to, but when you sew the 2 ends together, you're going to have, it's going to be a little wonky. So I'm not pulling up as much, but I'm still pulling up. And now I'm just not going to do it at all because now I'm into the half doubles. So I'm going to do the same thing at the end of my other piece that we haven't started yet, but we're going to get to. Oh God, I think I have a knot coming. Thank God I'm done. Yep, there's my knot. All right. So last stitch you can fasten off, and we'll make our other end. I have not. That I've purposely made. So only one of these needs a sewing tail. So that's put it back into shape. So I think my extended stitches could have probably been a little bit higher right there to match this, but close enough. Moving on to the next piece. You're going to make a magic ring of 6 single crochets. Oh, I got a knot there too. That's not my knot, that's from the manufacturer. I hate when that happens. So your next round is going to be 1 single crochet in each stitch. So I'm just going to count to 6. This is my 6th stitch. So I'm going to flip this around. And I'm going to pull this so my little circle closes. We are going to instantly jump into the 2 different stitches. And I want you to weave in as you go. So, tricky. We're going to do 3 single crochets and 3 half doubles. So I'm just snipping my tail off. So now we're going to do an increase row. We're going to do 1 single crochet, increase. I was talking with that in my mouth. So that's your 1 single crochet, and then we're going to do our increase of 2 single crochets in the same space. So you're going to have 9 stitches when you're done, if that helps you count. So your next round is going to be 5 single crochets and then 4 half doubles. So you can see it instantly turning. Oh, not so much in the camera, but. So your next round is going to be 2 single crochets and an increase. So because you have 12 stitches, we're going to do 6 single crochets and then 6 half double crochets. There we go. So it's got a little bit of a turn on it. So your next round is going to be 3 single crochets and an increase. This brings you up to 15 stitches. That's 3 single crochets and then your increase of 2 single crochets. So we have 15 stitches after that last row where the camera just shut off in the middle of what I was doing and talking. So I want you to do 8 single crochets and 7 half doubles. And your last row, believe it or not, is an increase row. So you're going to do 4 single crochets and an increase. So again, do extended stitches till that's even up here. So it's the same concept. That's my first one. So that's my 4th extended stitch. I'd say that's pretty good. Actually, it might be a little tall. So I'm just gonna do little extensions till I get into the half doubles, which is over here. So one of them has 18 stitches and one of them has 21 stitches, and that's okay because of what we're doing by putting it on the shark's tail. So you can fasten off. I know everyone's like, this doesn't make sense. There's 2 different numbers. How are we supposed to sew them together? Trust me. Because we don't sew them all the way together. The rest, only part of it gets sewn. 3/4 of it gets sewn together, and then the rest of it gets sewn onto the shark's butt. So I'm just pulling this forward. As far as this guy goes, you only need a sewing tail for one of these. So I'm just going to pull him through and then just shove him down there. I used no stuffing for any of these, but if you feel that you need to do that. So don't be like what I did. The last shark pencil case I made. So these fins are supposed to be going in the same direction. So away and away, like that. And then because of the size difference, let me get my other shark. You're going to sew it 3/4 of the way around, which puts that there. Do you see what I mean? And then this goes on here. It's hard to explain. We're going to have to do it. But trust me, it's okay. Just make sure that these are facing the same direction. You get what I'm saying? So they should come together where the points like this, because that's the outside. Nobody's really going to see. So I'm just going to come in, and I suck at sewing, so if you have a better way of doing this, I'm sure you can probably figure it out. You don't have to listen to what I'm telling you to do. So mine's just laid on my table. I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to do a whip stitch. So a whip stitch generally is front loop to front loop, or back loop to back loop, or however you want to do it. And that's because of the look it gives. So if you could just try to do that, so just use the front loops to bring your pieces together. Now I didn't do it for the very first stitch I did because I just Wanted to make sure it was going to hold. All right, so I'm just coming across, pulling snugly, going stitch for stitch. I know this seems probably really, really weird. Oops. Now, if you want to get the whole stitch while you're sewing, you don't need to listen to me. These are only suggestions that I make. They're not orders. I'm not barking out orders. So I've got one more on this side. I'm going to go all the way around before I sew it to the... So I just want to make sure I pull all my stitches nice and tight. And then I just literally flip it over. But I'm going to go from here to there at this point. You just got to make sure that you're even. So again, I know it's a funny way to make a tail, but I'm just trying to make sure it gets put on here and it's secure for the kitties. So I am back around. I'm just going to do one more stitch just to make sure it's nice and closed up. I want to put a small little wee knot right here that no one's ever going to see, because I'm going to go right back into it and I'm going to pop around over here to the edge to start sewing. So when I pull on that, it sucked that knot down right there so nobody sees it. So now all I want to do is come back. The top goes on the top, or the big one goes on the top, and the bottom one goes on the bottom, because a shark's tail is that's just how it is. So I go right into the tail and then into the bottom piece. Just make sure you're going stitch for stitch still, which is hard when one is bigger than the other. I get that. So it can be done though. I'm going to go up into it and up into the next stitch. And this hold is much better hold than building the tail in one round. So here, I got nowhere to go. I don't have the bottom part of the tail over on this side. I'm going to go in and out, filling those stitches at the front. And I'm going to come back over here and do this side. Now, it might be a little hard to start your one down here. It certainly is not easy to sew on, but at the same time, it is certainly worth it in the end. So again, I'm just coming up through the bum into my into the right stitch. God, my cat is loud when he walks down a flight of stairs. So I'm just right on the edge of the tippy edge of this tail to get my last stitch in here. So just make sure you've got all your pieces covered. And this is what it ends up looking like. So again, I know that looks strange, but when it's all together, actually, just between you and I, nobody's noticed mine being like that. Nobody has said, what the heck is going on here? Because, well, I mean, if you just did it, you can see your own. It's really not that noticeable. Like, once the pencil crayons and everything are in it, you probably never noticed that in the picture. And you probably never noticed that's backwards either, until I pointed it out. So it's just an easier way to get the tail that you should get, with the smaller one being on the bottom like a shark's fin. So you could do that for a whale too. The last shark that I did that had a tail fin, I never did that. And it always kind of bugged me, because I like to make things look like they should look. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to make a shark, it has to look like a shark. Anyway, I'm just going to put a small little knot here. This tail's never coming off, by the way we did it. Any kid could try to pull this tail off, and it's not coming off. And weave. That was kind of a tight spot to weave into. So when I pull, it pulls that knot right down, so nobody will see it. I don't think my tail's quite in the middle. So I'm just going to go down. I don't really want to go far with this weaving, because there's going to be pencil crayons in there. So there we go. That's why I made the shark tail the way I made the shark tail. So I know it's super duper weird to you, but it made sense in my head, and it made sense when I did it. And it really doesn't look that bad if you sew it properly. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am not a good sewer, so it certainly does look better than my last one. But at least it's all going the same direction this time. So, last but not least, gonna lose all my stuff. So we're done. Everything in the shark except for sewing our zipper on. I'm probably just going to use pink again. But I got these 20 assorted, 20 assorted colors, but 100 piece of nylon zippers in a bag from Amazon. Oh gosh, I think it was only like $15 or something like that I got 100 pieces. So, I mean, that's pennies, right? So, and it is a ton of colors. I've used quite a bit out of the bag, but it's got a ton of colors. Red was not one of them, so that's another reason I decided to go with pink. So, get your zipper, and get your thread, if you're using thread, and I'll see you in a second. So, this goes on. Kind of got to fold your nose back. Open your zipper. So this will go on right below his teeth and around. And of course this guy goes around like that. So, it is not the easiest thing to sew into place. And to be quite honest, so with my sewing kit, I get these little clamps. And because I suck at sewing, I've got to use them. But you can use pins. But I'm using clamps. I'm going to tell you why in a second. I keep delaying the process of telling you. But I am using clamps because I like to use glue and sew. And the reason for that is because I suck at sewing. So I'm just making sure I got all this in the right space with my clamps. So that obviously is going to overhang a little bit. I tried to make the shark big enough. I didn't really want to go too big. And then I'm going to clamp the bottom of this, but in the meantime, I'm just going to pin it because I just want to, let's get away from this here. I'm just going to pin it because I just want it to be out of my way. So this is what it will look like. I mean, my other one looks a little funny. I might have to redo everything, but this one turned out okay. This one turned out fine. So, oh, my zipper got stuck. So it holds quite a few pencil crayons, as you can see. It's like a box and a half. So it holds quite a bit. So anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. Super mean with the nose up. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. I actually had a lot of fun doing this one. I'll see you in the next video.